Every year, millions struggle in silence. On the outside, they seem fine. But inside, everything feels heavy. What causes this pain? Let's understand through psychology. Many people think psychology is just about mental illness, but psychology is actually the science of the human mind and behavior. When we look into the mirror, we also look into ourselves, wondering who we are and why we feel the way we do. Sometimes, our loneliness grows when we compare ourselves with others. This is what psychology calls social comparison. Humanistic psychology reminds us that everyone has the power to grow, to become our true selves beyond fear.
Good afternoon, Madam Nurul Nabila. Thank you so much for joining this online interview session with me today. I really appreciate your time and willingness to share your thoughts. This interview is part of my coursework under the theme Understanding Human Mind and Behavior. So I will begin with the first question. From a psychological perspective, why do you think many people struggle in silence despite appearing fine on the outside?
From one point of view, many people hide their own struggles because of social expectations. We are often taught to appear as a strong person or to be able to pull things together, which can lead to suppression of emotions to those who are experiencing struggles. Besides that, there are also stigma surrounding mental health, where people fear of being judged or misunderstood when they are seeking for professional help, such as going to counseling or seeing a therapist. So instead of seeking help, these people, they start to internalize their own pain. They start to bottle up their own emotions, which can eventually create a silent emotional burden and affect their well-being in the long term.
Thank you, Madam. That is a really insightful point. Moving on to the second question, psychology is often misunderstood as only dealing with mental illness. How will you explain psychology's broader role in understanding everyday human thoughts and behavior?
Psychology isn't just about mental illnesses. If we go back to the very definition of psychology, it is the study of how people think, feel, and behave in all kinds of situations. I'm taking myself as an example. As a lecturer, the understanding of psychology is crucial. It helps me to know how my students learn best, what motivates them, and how their emotions influence their attention and memory. The understanding of psychology has guided me in creating supportive classroom environments for my students and to how to manage their behaviors effectively. So even in everyday life, be it in classroom setting, workplaces, or dealing with your family members, psychological principles can improve communication, performance, and overall quality of life. So it isn't just about mental illnesses like most people would have understood.
I see, that's a very clear explanation, Madam. It really helps to understand psychology's broader impact on everyday life. Next, for the third question, social comparison was mentioned as a source of loneliness. Could you explain how comparison affects our self-esteem and emotional well-being?
Social comparison is a double-edged sword. It can both be motivating and it can also be harmful. It can be harmful when we constantly compare ourselves to others. So naturally, people have the tendency to post their best self on social media. For example, their academic achievements, where they have been traveling to, or their aesthetically pleasing drinks and dessert at an expensive cafe. And when we see those social media posts, we tend to compare ourselves, and this is where it can lower our self-esteem or trigger feelings of inadequacy or loneliness. That distorted view makes us feel like we are not enough. Learning to practice self-compassion and focus on personal growth rather than comparison can really help maintain emotional balance. Unfortunately, that is where most of us are struggling with.
Yes, that's very true, especially in today's social media culture. Thank you, Madam. Now, moving on to the last question. Humanistic psychology focuses on personal growth and self-actualization. How can this approach help individuals overcome fear and embrace their authentic self?
Carl Rogers and Abraham Maslow are prominent theorists in humanism perspective psychology. This perspective focuses on self acceptance and personal growth. It reminds us that every individual has the potential to grow if they are in a supportive and non judgmental environment. When people feel accepted as they are, they become less afraid to express their true selves. For example, when a lecturer provides unconditional support and positive feedback to their students, students feel safe to express their opinions and ideas without fear of being judged by their classmates or even the lecturer. This allows them to grow more confidently and they are more genuine in becoming who they are.
Thank you so much, Madam. I really appreciate all the insights you have shared. That's all from me, Madam Nabila. Thank you again for your time and for sharing your valuable knowledge. Wishing you a pleasant afternoon ahead.
You are most welcome. It has been a pleasure to share my thoughts with you and have a good day.
Every person experiences emotions differently, and that is what makes psychology so meaningful. In the short interview, we'll be hearing from Miss Iziana, who'll be sharing her personal thoughts and experiences about psychology, what it means to her, and how it relates to real life. Hi, Miss Iziana. Thank you for joining me today.
Hello, glad to be here.
Let's begin with the first question. When you hear the word psychology, what comes to your mind personally?
Honestly, when I hear psychology, I think about people's emotion and how the mind works. I used to think it was only about mental illness, but now I see it's also about understanding ourselves better, like why we feel certain things or react in certain ways. It's quite interesting actually because it makes me realize that everyone's going through something, even if we can't see it.
That is true. Everyone is dealing with something in their own way. Okay, moving on to the next question. Have you ever experienced comparing yourself to others, and how did that affect your emotions or self-confidence?
Uh, for sure, especially with social media, I think everyone does it at some point. When I see people who seem to have everything figured out, it makes me feel like I'm not doing enough. It can really affect your confidence, but I've learned to remind myself that what we see online isn't always real. Everyone's moving at their own pace, and that's okay. Once I accepted that, I started feeling a bit lighter.
Yeah, that is so relatable. I think many people can connect to that. So the next question is about emotional well-being. What are some things you do to take care of mental or emotional well-being when life feels heavy?
When things get too much, I try to take some quiet time for myself. I will listen to music, go out for a walk, or just talk to someone I trust. Sometimes I'll just cry it out too, and honestly, that helps. I think the main thing is not keeping it all inside. Once I let it out, I usually feel calmer and can think more clearly again.
That's a really healthy way to cope. Okay, for the next one, the video we watched earlier mentioned growing beyond fear. I would like to hear your thoughts on that. What does personal growth mean to you?
To me, personal growth means learning from tough moments and trying to become a better version of myself. It's not about being perfect, it's more about understanding what scares me and slowly overcoming it. Like, even small steps count. I think we all grow in our own ways, sometimes without even realizing it.
That is beautifully said. Okay, and for one final question, this one is a little more personal. If you could share one message to someone silently struggling right now, what would you say?
I'd say, please don't give up. I know it feels heavy sometimes, but you're really not alone. Talk to someone you trust, even if it's just a small step. And don't be too hard on yourself. Life is not a race. Take things one day at a time. Healing takes time, but it's possible. You're definitely doing better than you think.
That is such a comforting message. Thank you so much, Miss Iziana, for being open and sharing your thoughts with me today.
Thank you for having me.
Psychology helps us see that everyone has their own story, their struggles, their emotions, and their growth. Through empathy and understanding, we can make the world a little kinder, one conversation at a time.
Through this project, we learned what psychology truly means. Psychology is not only about mental illness or therapy sessions. It is the science of understanding human thoughts, emotions, and behavior. It helps us see why people act in certain ways, why we feel different emotions, and how our experiences shape who we are. Psychology helps us to understand ourselves and also to understand others. It connects our mind, our heart, and our actions. One important concept we explored is self-awareness. Self-awareness means being able to look within ourselves and recognize our own emotions, thoughts, and reactions. When we are self-aware, we can notice what makes us angry, sad, or happy, and we can choose how to respond. It helps us realize when we are struggling and when we are growing stronger. Self-awareness is the first step to emotional control and self-improvement, because when we understand ourselves, we can change ourselves. The second concept is social comparison. Social comparison happens when we measure ourselves against others, how they look, what they achieve, or what they own. Sometimes it motivates us to do better, but other times it makes us feel small and unworthy. When we always compare, we forget our own value. But by understanding this, we can manage our emotions better and remind ourselves that everyone's journey is different. We don't have to be better than others, we just have to be better than who we were yesterday. The third concept is humanistic psychology. This theory reminds us that every person has the potential to grow, change, and find meaning in life. Even when we face difficulties, we still have the inner strength to improve ourselves. Humanistic psychology believes that we are not defined by our past or by our struggles. We can choose kindness, growth, and purpose. Every mistake, every pain, is part of becoming a better version of ourselves. Through all these ideas, we learned that psychology is not just a theory in a textbook. It is a guide to living a mindful, compassionate, and meaningful life. It teaches us to notice our emotions instead of ignoring them, to understand others instead of judging them, to care, to listen, and to grow together. Everyone struggles in their own way, but with awareness, understanding, and empathy, we can support both ourselves and the people around us. In the end, understanding psychology gives us the tools to face life with strength and hope. It reminds us that growth takes time and healing takes courage. By reflecting on ourselves and learning from every experience, we can become more confident, more understanding, and more human. Because the true purpose of psychology is not only to study the mind, but to help us live with kindness, awareness, and love.